almost the worst thing that happens to you as a trader is you make money right away.
I've stepped back and just really done nothing. I'm barely writing my note. I'm not doing a lot because I don't feel I have a real edge in this market.
And the only way to do that, obviously, is to trade a lot smaller than you think. That's my opinion.
And your strategy is telling you need to hold it, but financially you have something going on in the back of your mind that you have to pay and you can't hold it, you're toast. Market will eat you up.
You can work your ass off and lose money, right? You need to live well below your means. Hello, I'm Jason Shapiro with crowdedmarketreport.com. And today I wanted to speak a little bit about something that I think is dangerous, especially for newer traders and people that are getting into trading, which is the idea that trading is an ATM. It's just a matter of getting the money together so you can put it in an account, read a couple books on technical analysis, follow some guru from Twitter or whatever, and you're off and going, man. And it's just a question of time before you're richer than your wildest dreams. Okay. And I just want to say it's not that. I've been trading for 35 years. Not only have I been trading myself so I can see results, but I have worked in many different places, hedge funds, prop firms, and have witnessed many, many traders. And I have a Discord where we have many, many traders on there, and I can watch them too. I'm here to tell you that that is not the case. So if you go into this thinking that's the case, you're starting behind the 8 ball to begin with. And rather than just listen to cynical me, I brought on our friend Anthony Kudell, who has been trading for a long time as well. I believe he started on the floors in Chicago, which is the center of it all, and he moved off the floor and has traded off the floor and also has seen a lot of traders. He actually has a relationship with Ninja Trader, from what I understand, which obviously has a lot of traders on there. So I thought I'd bring him on to see his opinion on this subject as well. So Anthony, welcome here.
Jason, great to be here.
Yeah, and tell me what you think. How easy is this game?
Oh man, where do I even begin?
And after 35 years, how come I'm not a billionaire?
I got on the floor in the end of 95, beginning of 96. And so, I'm coming up on 30 years, which is crazy. I've been an independent trader for 25 years. I got my seat in 99. So just over 25 years now. Actually, I'm coming up on 26. It's crazy. But I look at it like this. I've had weeks and months and even years that were careers in terms of P&L. And I've had years and weeks and months where I'm working, another job to keep my head above water. And, I've always felt that this business is, I don't want to say feast or famine. That's not really what it is, but it's everything is in cycles. Like I think that when you develop an edge, which everyone talks about all the time, right? You have to realize that edge is, you need a market environment that's conducive for your edge. And so I've always found that I've made money in moments. There's times where I do extremely well, where everything's working for me. I just have, maybe these really great runs, and they actually buy me time to last for who knows how long it could be until I have a good run again. And I think that that's one of the most difficult things for me to wrap my head around as a new trader, is that I'm not coming in every day. It's not a printing press. And it could be, you might have a great strategy out of the gates, but you might have a market environment that's not conducive to it. And so then you keep switching back and forth. And then all of a sudden you get a market environment that's conducive to that type of style or strategy. And then, you're not financially in a good place to take advantage of it. And that's something we see over and over again, Jason, right? Most people, they shoot themselves in the foot way too early on to finally be in an environment that, like I said, I've used this word a lot, conducive to their strategy and style.
No, I think there's a lot of really good points there. I think about myself and also some other people that I've known where almost the worst thing that happens to you as a trader is you make money right away. Because psychologically now do you get into, hey, look how good I am at this. I'm unstoppable. So I don't have to worry about things like risk or, discipline or, cutting a loss, because I don't lose. I'm a winner. Look at me. And that happened to me. But as it turned out, the reason that happened to me when I was 22 years old was I got involved in a runaway bull market. And it's a famous line, like, don't confuse a bull market for genius. And I did, quite frankly, right? And I levered because I was making money, and I put up one of these ridiculous, as only a 22-year-old really could, turned X amount of money into, 40X amount of money inside of like 2 years. And then, of course, the bull market ended, and I turned 40X amount of money right back into X amount. And then that is where I really started to learn about things like risk management and that stuff. And I think that's a pretty typical story, as I'm a person, just like everybody else is a person. So we all kind of go through typical things. And it's like you say, to everything, there is a season. And it's hard to determine when your season is and when your season isn't. But even if you can't determine when that is, the key is to stay alive when it's not your season so that you can make good money when it is your season. And the only way to do that, obviously, is to trade a lot smaller than you think, is my opinion.
I completely agree with you. I mean, you and I were on the phone the other day. We were cracking up and we were talking about just the markets and how little we were doing. And I'm like, I'm just sitting on a 2-lot because I feel like I can learn a lot from this 2-lot, and it was a loser, but it kept me from trading a 20-lot or a 50-lot. And, and it's just like, okay, I love that phrase that you talked about. Everything has a season, because it is so true, because I go back to making money in moments. I think the one thing that experience buys you, it's why I say every year around the holidays, give yourself the gift of time. I say this to traders all the time, because that's the best gift you can give yourself. The only thing that's really different, I think, about like yourself and me and people that have been doing this for multiple decades is that we've seen the cycles, and we know that when it's not our time to make money, we're not really pushing it. I find other things to do. I don't put myself in a position of weakness when all of a sudden the market gives me what I want and I'm mentally beat up, capital's depleted, and all of a sudden I need to be putting my foot on the gas, and all of a sudden now I don't have the confidence mentally and financially. I've been getting, nicked and dinged for months. And I think that is the one thing that separates, I think, newer traders from experienced traders. Not that they can't find a great edge, not that they can't find a great strategy, not that there's so many great indicators and things out there that traders I see using that I think really have a lot of validity, and I think that they can actually build careers with. But again, because they put so much pressure on short-term trading, that they shoot themselves in the foot in the times where things just aren't conducive to it, and they can't separate themselves from it. And so it could be like, this goes back to why so many traders go on a really good run and then have their worst run afterwards. I've done that multiple times. And the reason is because you build up this extreme confidence and you think that your edge is now in place. You feel like this is your time. I remember saying it going, yeah, this is like, I got it. Like, this is it. I remember coming off of my best year and then having the best start to a year, and then ultimately ended up being my worst year just because I didn't adjust quick enough. And I continue to try and force things that were just working a week ago or even a day ago that are no longer working. And then it just puts you in such a bad place financially and mentally that it's hard to come back from that. And I think that is why experience is so important, and you have to live through times, because you will be able to see a setup or something that's happened in the past based upon a current market environment that worked really well, and all of a sudden a similar situation that doesn't. And I think we're seeing that right now, Jason. I think this year, you mentioned the bull market, I think is so interesting, and to see how this year has been. Like, I actually started off pretty good the first week or so of January, and then since then it's just really, I've been almost doing nothing. And you look at all of these technicians, a lot of them mostly bullish, which I get why, if you're trading indexes, all of a sudden everything's mean reversion, right? All the biggest moves are coming off the highs back to the middle of the range, and then it looks like we're going to get bearish and we come right back in. It's just like, it's just chopping people to bits. And again, I've stepped back and just really done nothing. I'm barely writing my note. I'm not doing a lot because I don't feel I have a real edge in this market. And again, when it starts to happen again, I'll be ready to step back in, but I'm not going to deplete myself mentally and capital wise right now. And I think that to me is a big differential.
Agree. And, I think also when people go through it in their head, the one that I like to quote a lot is George Soros. Like him or hate him, the guy has had a lot of success in the markets. He's averaged a little bit under 30% a year. And he had, I believe, a 40 or 45% drawdown at one point. So ask yourself, am I going to be as good as arguably one of the greatest traders ever? And if I am, then I can make 30% a year with a 45% drawdown. Are you ready for that? That's the question, right? People think they're going to make money all the time, and clearly they're not. You name it, they've had big drawdowns, right? Stanley Druckenmiller, to me, is probably the king of it all. And he has had big drawdowns, right? And I don't know that he's had any years in a long time, but he has said entry year. It just happens to be the calendar, January to December, where he hasn't had down. But if you go March to March or May to May, he has had down 12-month periods. And then he's, I would argue, the greatest one out there. So I think that people need to take that into consideration. I know we all think that we get involved and I just turned 20 grand into 80 grand very quickly. And now I can turn 80, I can keep doing that time and time again. And I'm going to be as rich as Midas pretty soon. It's just not realistic. It's just not realistic. You're not going to be the first person in the history of this entire game to do that. And again, if you look at to what the best have done, you'll see that they have periods where they lose.
And you look at the best and look at what they've done during times where everything was aligned for them. They've done extremely well. And even though you talk about experiencing a 45% drawdown, they've kept their capital in play to be able to withstand that. Most traders financially aren't prepared for the hurdles that they're going to have to go through, right? And I think one of the struggles that you see a lot of newer, younger traders that come into the business that try to do this full time on their own is there's so much more to this than just making money. There's balancing, your life around the income as it's sporadically coming in. I think that's such a challenge. And I think that because so many traders come into this with the ideas with high expectations of making a lot of money. And then when they start to make a little bit of money and they're probably showing some success that you and I would look at and say percentage wise, they're doing very well, but to them, it's not financially enough to keep them afloat. And so then they push even harder. And there's these psychological battles that they go through because expectations were set too high. Now they're not making as much as they wanted, but they're actually making some money. And then all of a sudden it's this cry for help and they implode on themselves, right? They basically are just like, oh God, I just need this payout, or I need this, or I need that. And I've seen a lot of traders, and I've spoken with many that have had really solid runs and have done really well, and then set a level of expectation that's unsustainable, even at the level that they just were, and they're unable to find their footing as things start to go south on them. And I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges as a new trader is to really think beyond just this short-term expectation, these short-term needs that we have. I've worked other jobs while I was a full-time trader. I was a member of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and I was clerking for traders, doing out trades, doing whatever I could to make money so I didn't touch my trading account. And so I could actually feel the ebbs and flows of my account and be okay with it to eventually find a way to actually have a life as a trader where, maybe you don't make tens of millions of dollars like everyone thinks they're going to. Maybe you just make a good living. I know a lot of traders that even in the days when I was on the floor, then some of them maybe never hit the $1 million mark per year, but they made money every year and they were able to find a rhythm within their level of, I don't want to say income, but they were able to find a way to just kind of grind it out. Right. And I think that's the other psychological part that I think so many traders miss is that they're just coming in and either shooting too high or they have a good run and then they're back and they're not sure where to find it. That is 250 a day enough? Is 500 a day enough? Oh, all of a sudden I need to make 1,000 and it's 5,000. They really have no financial balance and then translate that into real life because, life's expensive and there's all these things that are going on. And so sometimes it's not just the pressures of making money as a trader, it's how you deal with it as you make money. What are you doing? What decisions are you making to sustain yourself, to maintain, longevity in this business? You look at you and I mean, you think about it, nobody wants to hear about, maybe a lot of people probably do want to hear this, is just how much pain you and I have gone through and how many times where it's like, I remember being in the car on my 1-year wedding anniversary, telling my wife as I'm driving we're getting ready to go to Napa. And I'm like, man, I don't even know if we could do this. I just got killed last week. I'm like, you know what I mean? Can I even afford this right now? I'm sitting there in a limo. At 1 week, I'm a big shot. The next week I'm going, oh my God, I have to cancel this vacation. And you could just like, my wife is like, what is this going to end? Like, what is this? And, and you figure that out. Right. And so there's just so much to this.
I mean, when I was 23 years old, and I went on my bull market run, the first thing I did, of course, was I went out and bought a Porsche. 12 months later, I couldn't afford to put gas in it.
Yeah.
And of course, 12 months later, it was no longer a bull market, it was a bear market. So trying to get rid of a Porsche in a bear market is a hell of a lot harder than trying to get rid of a Porsche in a bull market, So I think it's a really, and this is something that I have come to, because of experiences like that I have come to live by. Some of the things you talked about. First of all, you shouldn't need to pay for your life out of your trading account. Otherwise, you're going to have a very difficult time compounding the money, even if you're successful, right? I believe very strongly in that. I believe very strongly in living way below your means, especially as a trader, because believe it or not, no matter how well you're doing it right now, as you said, there are going to be times when it's not going as well. So you need, in particular in this business, this is not a paid job, right? You can work your ass off and lose money, right? You need to live well below your means. I've actually done videos on this before. People were at one point looking at my videos, and I had this chair that I sat at, and the chair had like this huge rip in it, and like it actually had like this piece of metal coming out that was like digging into my back. And people were like, oh, you're supposed to be some freaking big millionaire trader. You can't even get yourself a freaking chair. And to that point, I went out and did go buy a chair. But my point was, I'm so used to not wanting to spend any money, okay? Because I want to stay in the mindset of living so far below my means, because that way the pressure, you talk about, okay, it's not my time. This is not the time for my strategy, so I'm going to back off. Okay, I may not make any money in that period, so how am I going to live, right? Well, if I'm living way below my means, it's not a problem. So I don't feel that pressure to push, which is such an important thing, right? Sometimes you got to back off. They say know when to hold them, know when to fold them, right? Know when to walk away. And you can't do that if you're trying to make your living every single month off of trading. I'm a strong believer in A, don't count on the trading account to pay your bills. And B, if you do reach a level of success, live below your means. There's no reason to go out and buy the Ferrari and buy the mansion and do all that stuff. And as you get older, I believe most people start to realize that those things are not what is going to bring you happiness in the end. Anyway, stuff is not really what brings you happiness, right? As a young person, sure, everybody wants to buy the Ferrari and all that stuff. But I'm not going to say lucky, but in a way I was lucky that the first part of my career, I went through what a lot of people go through, with the ups and downs and ups and downs. And so that when I finally ended up having sort of steady success, I already had gotten into the mindset of, I was old enough to realize that I don't need all these things. So therefore I'm going to live below my means. And that helps so much with the trading. The trading is such a psychological game. This game is so in your head that the less you have to worry about when it comes to money, the higher your chance of success is, in my view.
I mean, 100%. I think if there's anything that a trader takes away from this today is live below your means. I think it's probably the most important thing that I did in my career. And it took me a while to kind of figure that out, because initially I was in it for the lifestyle. I was on the floor. I was a big shot, parking, P1, P2 at the CME, big dinners, doing everything right. And, eventually it slowly went away, and you look at it and you go, okay, I'm either going to deplete my capital paying for all these things that I have, or I give myself a chance at longevity in this business. And there's a lot of people that will always choose that they want to keep up with the Joneses, as they say, and that'll take priority. And then ultimately they're out of the business. Right. And so, I found, luckily early in my career, like, okay, I'm never going to be the richest. I don't care if I'm the best. I don't care what people think, what I have or what I don't have, and all these different things. All that matters is the next day I was able to come into the screen and do what I wanted to do. And I was able to control my own destiny. And that all started with me living below my means, right? Cutting everything out. And until you make some money financially, you feel pretty good. And then you start to lose it, and when that fear sets in of like not wanting to go back, like I come from a background, didn't have money to go to college, only high school educated, looking at it where I was going to be working for the city, or some sort of labor type job is most likely where I would have been initially out of high school. Instead, I stumbled on the trading floor. It was an accident. It's a long story how that kind of happened, but nonetheless, it was like fearful for me to be like, if I don't hold on to this, if I can't be here today to click a button, then what is the rest of it? Doesn't matter. It's all going to go away anyway. So once I reduced lifestyle expenses and was able to get control of that, and that's why I mentioned a lot of times traders have edge, or they have good strategies, but they just get way too far ahead of themselves, or they finally make some money and then they implode immediately after because they're trying to push, or something happens where they take money out of their account. Now they're tighter, and they don't give themselves the gift of time. And that all starts with expenses. That all starts there, because if you have a strong hand in the market, and then what I mean by that is the ability to come in and make the decision that you want to make for that day, that puts you above a lot of people. But if you come in with a weak hand and all of a sudden the market's a little bit against you, and your strategy is telling you need to hold it, but financially you have something going on in the back of your mind that you have to pay, and you can't hold it, you're toast. Market will eat you up.
100%. This has to be based on your strategy. And sometimes your strategy is going to have losing trades, but you have to be able to accept that losing trade, right? And like you say, if you can't accept that, then your strategy is going to be useless. You're going to get whipped around. You're going to get whipped out of what ended up being good positions, which is going to get in your head again. You're going to get mad, and then your emotions are taking over, and now you can't trade. Now you're frozen. Now you're this. Now you just can't do it. And I'm not here to say that, look, this is a very hard thing to do. We spend a lot of mental capacity doing this. And if you have success, I'm not saying don't ever go out and spend any money, right? You do have to treat yourself once in a while, but do it in a realistic way. You know, if you're into cars and you go out and make a bunch of money, okay, then buy yourself a nice car. But you know what? Buy it for cash, right? And don't have the loan over your head. Me personally, I like traveling. So I don't do a lot of stuff during the year. I don't go out to dinner a lot. You know what I mean? I keep it pretty, I'm kind of a homebody. I work out of my house and, you know, we don't do a lot of that stuff, but a couple times a year, we'll take nice vacations, you know? And I will, and it's great because I'm not blowing money and all the rest of my life. I don't have any loans and I don't have a big lifestyle. I can go take my nice vacation and not worry about it. You know, here we go. We want to go out to nice dinners and stay at nice hotels and get a nice airplane. You know, I can do that stuff and I can enjoy what I enjoy. But then the rest of the year, I just tighten it up, you know? So again, if you like cars and you want to buy a car, okay, you have a good run, buy a car, pay cash, enjoy your car, move on, right? I'm not saying never spend any money because otherwise what's the point, right? But I just think those things are as important, if not more important, than your actual trading strategy. Because like you say, you won't be able to execute your trading strategy if you're feeling that financial tightness.
If you want to elevate your lifestyle, you've got to earn it, right? You can't elevate it quickly. It just doesn't work that way. Elevator up, right? And then they rip the cord and, you know, it falls straight down. I mean, it's no different than kind of with the market. You have to earn it. And one of the things that I think, one of the best pieces of advice that an old school trader told me years ago was, when you're making money, keep doing what you're doing, keep saving it, don't spend it. When you start to get into a downturn, a drawdown, that's when you can start spending a little bit of money. Because in that moment, you've earned the right to stay committed to your strategy and everything. And then when all of a sudden you see that the market is not conducive to your strategy, pull a little bit of money out, step back, go enjoy yourself, regroup, sit back, wait to see when the market starts giving you something again and be ready to strike again from a fresh perspective. Because most people, when they're making money, they're just spending, and all of a sudden it gets bad. And all of a sudden now they can't adapt to it, right? And so I don't think it's perfect, that advice, but it helped slow me down in the moments of when things were going really well, that I would just keep pushing. And when I say pushing, like I would just stay solely focused and trying to maximize the most out of my strategy, because I know that it could be tomorrow or that day that strategy, my strategy is no longer going to be working as well. And the money, I have to take it when it comes to me, right? When the market is giving me something, I have to take it. And when the market starts taking back from me, I can't give it too much. And it's just psychologically really helped me. It's helped me as a person slow things down. And it just puts me in perspective of when things are going well, tighten the noose on everything in your life. Goes back to, you know, when you're doing well, keep doing good. Don't spend. When things pull back, now you have the ability. It's kind of like what you talk about with a vacation. It's like, you know, I don't ever really plan vacations that often. I do a lot of weekend trips throughout the year, but when all of a sudden things aren't going really well, I look around and go, maybe I just need to get out of here for a couple of weeks or a week or two and just totally remove myself from it. And you afford yourself that option, because you really can't buy that, right? Like that to me is like, you need to develop that discipline, and you need to be capitally or have enough capital in that moment to be able to do that or remove yourself from that situation.
Absolutely. I think we got the point across on that one. I'm sure nobody will listen to it, but this is coming from people who have been through the ringer still. I always say this. It doesn't matter really how many. I'll say it because hopefully it helps somebody out there. I'll say a lot of things that I say because hopefully it helps somebody out there. But I find that 99% of the people need to learn these lessons for themselves. I know I did. I always say, like,
if I tell them they have to,
if I had listened to all the things my dad told me, my life would have been a lot easier. If my kid had listened to all the things that I told him, his life would have been a lot easier. But we don't, because we have to learn our own lessons.
But here's the thing too, Jason, like our lives have been elevated slowly. Like when we finally got off of trying to be, you know, the biggest, the best. And I see all these people on Twitter are talking about who's the best trader, who's this. And it's like, okay, all these things, whatever, I don't care, right? We've elevated our lives over time, right? Like we're still here. And it comes a lot quicker than you think when you finally put your head down and just do what you're supposed to do. Yeah, when you try to make something happen, it's just not going to happen. You have to exist long enough, and then ultimately it organically starts to happen. You know, all of a sudden you're like, wow, I kind of get this. So, you know, and then you start developing a rhythm and being a professional trader. This is not something that just happens. I mean, I see people that have been doing this for 3 years and they talk about like how they're pros. It's like, man, you don't even know what comes at you at year 10. Yeah, I mean, you don't even know what could happen. I mean, it could be it. I mean, you could be done. I mean, we never make it in this business until we turn the lights out and we're done. My goal always is to be able to be here. I want to be able to be here. And when I think that way, I make better decisions for today.
You ain't alive, then you ain't playing, and it's
Right.
over. That's good. Let me ask you this from your experience. What percentage of people that trade the markets make money over time? Not today or in a year or even in 3 years. Over time, what percentage do you think make money?
It's a very low percentage. And, I'm able to see a lot of bulk data, over the years. Working now, even at Ninja, you get to see a lot of it. A lot of people will talk about how the future space goes through, a lot of bodies, right? And it's historically just what's always happened, right? It's the nature of this business. And so longevity is not something that you see in the forefront. I mean, you see a lot of people come and go in short periods of time. And, it's unfortunate. And again, I think it's really because I don't think it's because they can't make money. I think it's because they can't make enough money. And I think they set expectations way too high. And I think they have other things going on in the back of their mind, other things going on in their lives. And they come into this market and they're just not fully prepared for the time duration it's going to take. There's a few guys out there on Twitter I think are hilarious, and they talk about like, I couldn't wait to become a full-time trader to get all of this, financial independence, and I end up working 24 hours a day and I'm never taking time off. It's kind of funny, right? Because after going through that, you realize, yeah, like this is not what you think it's going to be. You're not just walking in here and just unlocking the door to loads of cash. As we started this conversation off, it's not an ATM. And in order to where the real money comes, and this is such an important point, where the real money came for me was building it over time, right? I was never the guy who had the best days, the best weeks, the best months, or even the best years. But over time, my numbers went up. And over time, I was able to take my money and do other things with it as well. I was able to pay off debts. I was able to pay off, anything that I needed to. I was able to buy things that I want. I was able to accumulate wealth by existing long enough and making money, right? And that's the key. It's not about the big P&L for today. It's not about the big P&L for the week or the month. It's about being in this business long enough to really accumulate wealth. That's where the money is.
No, and it's funny because that's where the fun ego part comes in. Oh, I had a huge day. Look at me. I had a huge day. I made $100,000. I'm a hero. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
that kind of thinking will kill you. Not to say don't go out and make $100,000 a day. It'd be great, but just know that was that day, and this is, like you say, this is about accumulating over time. This is about over time, not one time.
Exactly.
And just to get back to my original question, which to me, I believe the amount of people that succeed in this is less than 5%. If 5% of the people succeed at this, then how am I going to be in that 5%? And if I'm doing what the vast majority of people are doing, then I've got a 95% chance of failing. So you have to think about, in my view, how do I do things differently than what are the other 95% of people that are losing are doing? And trust me, those 95% of people that ended up losing had periods where they made money and had probably days where they made a lot of money and all that, but that's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. You can make 100% a day for 10 days in a row, and on day 11 you lose 100%, and now you're at zero. That's just math, right? That's just math. So
And that 95%, there's a lot of talented people that really could have been successful traders that didn't give themselves time, period. No doubt about it. See it a lot.
Yes, good. All right, well, that's really, I think, unless you want to add something, I think that's the point here, folks, in particular for newer traders, which goes back to the very beginning. It's not an ATM, and if you think it is, I think you're going to have a rude awakening. Maybe not today. How's that line go? Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but I forget that line from the movie, but you get what I'm trying to say. That's the message here. I hope that people hear it. I hope that people will consider it at the very least. I know that they won't live it until it catches them. I wanted to throw it out there, and I'm glad that Anthony can come on here and sort of give his views on it as well, because I think he made some very, very good points. And I will just, again, make the point that this is coming from people who have been doing this a long time and have seen a lot of trading and a lot of traders. And these are some of the lessons that we have learned, and we're really just trying to pass them along to help people. So I hope that helps people. I want to say thank you to Anthony. Anthony, where can people get to you or find you?
Yeah, so Well, first of all, Jason, it's always fun speaking with you on camera and off camera. I mean, you're the real deal, and we always have a blast when we talk. And your openness and honesty, I think, is great for this industry. And I love what you're doing with Carter Market Report. I think it's very much a space that people need to go and check out and what you're doing. So there's that. For me, Anthony Crudelli on Twitter, anthonycrudelli.com, and look on March 17th. We're launching Ninja Trader Live. It'll be on YouTube on the Ninja Trader YouTube channel. So check us out there. And I'm also working in the background of Ninja Trader, building a trader development program that'll be free for traders. And so look for that to come out later this year as well.
Ninja Trader is futures only or also does equities?
Just futures.
Futures trading only. Okay, good.
Yep.
Cool. So everybody check that out. Probably good. If Anthony's getting involved and running it, it's probably going to be something valuable, would be my guess. So check that out. Check out everything. And good luck out there, and stay focused and stay cheap.